On a chilly November morning in 2012, George Mills, the janitor at Blue Creek High School in Texas, started his usual shift at the stadium. But what began as an ordinary day quickly took a horrifying turn. As he approached the basement entrance, a strange metallic smell hit him, a smell he recognized but hoped wasn't what he thought. His gut feeling told him something was wrong. When he opened the basement door, his worst fears came true. In the corner of the dimly lit room, George found a bundle wrapped in a blood-stained football jersey. It didn't take long for him to realize it was the body of Amanda Hart, the school's beloved cheerleader. She was just 17 years old. Her wrists showed bruises, and her neck had clear signs of strangulation. Above her, scrawled in red letters on the wall, was a chilling message: "Love kills." Shaken, George called the police immediately. Within minutes, the once quiet stadium was buzzing with flashing lights and investigators. Amanda's death sent shockwaves through the town. She wasn't just any student. Amanda was adored by her classmates and teachers. Known for her bright smile and outgoing personality, her loss left everyone asking the same question: who could have done this? But as investigators began to dig into Amanda's life, they uncovered secrets that painted a much darker picture. Her death wasn't random, it was personal, and what they would soon uncover was a web of jealousy, betrayal, and hidden relationships that no one in Blue Creek had seen coming. Amanda Hart wasn't just a regular high school student. She was the captain of the Blue Creek High cheerleading squad, and the kind of person everyone seemed to admire. Teachers praised her, students looked up to her, and her bright smile made her the center of attention wherever she went. On the surface, Amanda's life seemed perfect, but behind the smiles, she carried burdens few people knew about. Her parents had divorced when she was just 10, and her relationship with her father had been strained ever since. The distance between them left Amanda constantly searching for approval and affection. This need to feel valued often led her to make choices that complicated her life. To her friends and classmates, she was confident and radiant. But in private, Amanda struggled with insecurities and a deep longing to fill the emotional void left by her fractured family. Her life, however, wasn't just about personal struggles. Amanda had become part of a complicated world filled with high school drama, relationships, and rivalries. Her involvement with people around her, especially those closest to her, would soon take a dangerous turn. As investigators would discover, Amanda's seemingly perfect world was a fragile one, hiding secrets that would ultimately cost her everything. Beneath the surface of Amanda's polished image was a secret that few knew: a hidden relationship with Jack Carter, Blue Creek High's star quarterback. Jack was the kind of person everyone admired. He had charm, athletic talent, and a bright future ahead of him. Colleges were lining up to offer him scholarships, and he seemed destined for greatness. But like Amanda, Jack's life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. The two first connected in August 2012 at a party celebrating a preseason victory for the football team. That night, away from the noise and chaos, Amanda and Jack found themselves sitting alone, talking about their frustrations. Amanda spoke about the pressure to always appear perfect, and Jack opened up about the constant demands from his father, a former football star turned overbearing coach. What started as a simple conversation quickly turned into something deeper. Their connection became a secret. Late-night drives, stolen moments during school events, and quiet conversations in the stadium became their routine. But secrecy came with risks, and their relationship was anything but simple. Jack was already in a committed, though tumultuous, relationship with Khloe Miller, Blue Creek High's Queen Bee. Khloe's strong personality and possessive nature meant she didn't take well to feeling sidelined. Jack and Amanda both knew the danger of being caught, but that didn't stop them. Their affair wasn't just about romance. It was an escape for both of them. Amanda found comfort in Jack's attention, and Jack found relief from his chaotic world in Amanda's warmth. But what they saw as a private connection was about to spiral into a very public disaster. Khloe wasn't one to ignore her instincts, and soon suspicions about Jack and Amanda began to grow, setting the stage for heartbreak and tragedy. Khloe Miller was not someone to overlook the small details. As Jack's girlfriend, she had always been fiercely protective of their relationship. Khloe was ambitious, sharp, and used to getting her way. But as Jack grew distant in the months leading up to Amanda's death, Khloe couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She started noticing subtle changes, missed phone calls, cryptic excuses, and moments when Jack seemed preoccupied. At first, she brushed it off as stress from football, but then her suspicions began to solidify. Khloe observed Jack stealing glances at Amanda during school events and noticed how Amanda seemed to be in the same places as Jack far too often. It didn't take long for Khloe to piece things together. Her jealousy and anger began to boil over. Khloe wasn't one to stay quiet. She confronted Amanda during cheer practice, warning her to stay away from Jack. But Amanda, who had grown tired of living in fear of being caught, brushed off Khloe's threats. To Khloe, this only added fuel to the fire. Behind the scenes, Khloe's frustration turned into obsession. She began keeping a closer eye on Amanda, watching her every move and trying to catch her in the act. She even started leaving handwritten notes in Amanda's locker filled with thinly veiled threats. But Khloe's possessiveness wasn't just about Jack. It was about control. To Khloe, losing Jack to Amanda wasn't just a betrayal, it was an attack on everything she had built. Her escalating behavior went unnoticed by most, but those closest to her started to see cracks in Khloe's usually composed demeanor. As the tension grew, it became clear that Khloe wasn't going to let this go quietly. What started as jealousy was quickly turning into something far more dangerous. While Khloe's jealousy over Amanda and Jack's relationship was loud and visible, there was another person quietly caught in the emotional storm: Ethan Ward. Ethan was Jack's childhood best friend and a key player on the Blue Creek High football team. As the team's wide receiver, he was well-liked and often overshadowed by Jack's spotlight. But what no one fully understood was the depth of Ethan's feelings for Amanda. Ethan had admired Amanda from afar for years. To him, she wasn't just the star cheerleader. She was kind, vibrant, and everything he wished he could have. But his feelings were never reciprocated. Amanda's secret connection with Jack only deepened Ethan's frustration. Over time, his admiration for her turned into quiet resentment, not just toward Jack, but toward Amanda herself for choosing someone else. In the weeks leading up to Amanda's death, friends noticed a change in Ethan. He became withdrawn, his usually upbeat personality replaced with an edge of bitterness. He avoided Jack at practice and stopped attending social events where Amanda might be present. On the night of Amanda's death, Ethan's actions raised even more questions. Witnesses reported seeing him arguing with Amanda in the school parking lot after the football team returned from an away game. Though the details of the argument remained unclear, the tension between them was undeniable. Ethan's feelings of rejection and betrayal created a storm of emotions he could no longer hide. While he kept much of his anger bottled up, his growing distance from Jack and Amanda didn't go unnoticed. Investigators soon began to uncover a trail of text messages Ethan had sent to Amanda, messages filled with longing, frustration, and hints of jealousy. What had once been a quiet admiration was now a critical piece of the tangled relationships surrounding Amanda's death. Ethan, like everyone else close to Amanda, had secrets of his own, and those secrets only added another layer of complexity to a case already filled with heartbreak and betrayal. The morning Amanda's body was found, the basement of Blue Creek High School became the center of a horrifying mystery. For investigators, the scene spoke volumes. Amanda's injuries told a story of struggle bruises on her wrists, signs of strangulation on her neck, and the staged positioning of her body wrapped in a blood-stained football jersey. But it was the message on the wall that added an even darker layer to the discovery. "Love kills" was scrawled in jagged red letters above Amanda. sending a clear signal that this was no random act of violence. Whoever had done this wanted to send a message, not just to Amanda, but to everyone who might uncover the truth. The calculated nature of the message immediately pointed detectives to a deeply personal motive. Detective Kate Monroe, a seasoned investigator known for her sharp instincts, and her younger partner, Tom Riggins, arrived on the scene to piece together what had happened. As Kate examined the evidence, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment crime. The bruises, the blood, and the chilling message suggested something far more deliberate. Tom, on the other hand, focused on the emotional undercurrents of the crime. To him, the way Amanda's body was left spoke of anger and heartbreak, possibly betrayal. Together, the detectives began mapping out their initial theories, noting that Amanda's death wasn't just about one act of violence. It was tied to a much bigger story, a web of relationships and emotions that had spiraled out of control. The crime scene wasn't just where Amanda's life ended, it was the starting point for unraveling the truth. Every detail left behind, from the message on the wall to the injuries Amanda suffered, would become a key piece in understanding not only who was responsible, but why they had done it. The answers weren't going to be simple, but the investigation had only just begun. The discovery of Amanda Hart's body sent shockwaves through Blue Creek, and the investigation quickly took center stage. Detectives Kate Monroe and Tom Riggins wasted no time diving into the details. They started by retracing Amanda's last known movements, interviewing students, teachers, and anyone who might have seen her that night. It didn't take long to uncover some startling leads. Witnesses confirmed that Amanda had been at the stadium after returning from the team's away game. Several people reported seeing Jack Carter lingering near the locker rooms that night, while others mentioned a heated exchange between Amanda and Ethan Ward in the parking lot. Khloe Miller's behavior in the days leading up to the murder also raised suspicions. Friends recalled hearing her threaten Amanda during cheer practice, warning her to stay away from Jack. As more details came to light, the detectives found themselves facing a complex puzzle. Amanda's relationships with Jack, Ethan, and Khloe were riddled with tension, jealousy, and hidden motives. Each of them had something to lose and possibly something to hide. But it wasn't just Amanda's personal connections that made the case difficult. The staged crime scene and the haunting message suggested the killer wanted to make a statement, leaving investigators to wonder, was this an act of rage, or was it carefully planned? By the end of their first day on the case, Kate and Tom had a long list of potential suspects, but no clear answers. The more they dug into Amanda's life, the more they realized her murder was the result of deeply buried secrets. Every interview and every piece of evidence pointed to one thing. This wasn't just a crime of passion. It was the result of a toxic mix of emotions that had been brewing for months. The pressure was on to find the truth, but with so many layers to uncover, the detectives knew this case would be anything but straightforward. Every step forward seemed to reveal another twist, and the deeper they went, the darker the story became. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Amanda Hart's life was far more complicated than anyone had realized. What seemed at first to be a simple case of jealousy and rivalry turned into a tangled web of secrets involving nearly everyone close to her. Each revelation only deepened the mystery, making it harder to determine who could be responsible for her death. Jack Carter, the town's golden boy, quickly became a key figure in the investigation. Security footage from the night of the murder showed his truck pulling into the school parking lot around the same time Amanda was last seen alive. Jack initially claimed he had gone home after the game, but the footage told a different story. Confronted with the evidence, Jack admitted he had been at the stadium, but insisted he had only gone there to clear his head. His lies raised more questions than answers. Meanwhile, Khloe Miller's behavior became harder to ignore. Her possessiveness over Jack and her open hostility toward Amanda were well documented. Investigators uncovered threatening notes Khloe had left in Amanda's locker, with one reading, "Stay away from Jack or you'll regret it." Friends also shared stories of Khloe's temper, including a recent incident where she threw a drink at another cheerleader over a perceived slight. Then there was Ethan Ward. As Jack's best friend and Amanda's quiet admirer, Ethan had his own reasons to feel angry and betrayed. Witnesses from the night of the murder described him as agitated, pacing near the stadium after arguing with Amanda. Text messages from Ethan to Amanda revealed years of unrequited affection mixed with resentment toward Jack. His emotions made him another strong suspect in the case. As detectives pieced together the clues, one thing became clear. Amanda's murder wasn't a random act. It was the result of months of jealousy, betrayal, and heartbreak. The challenge was untangling the motives of each suspect to uncover who had taken things too far. The deeper the detectives dug, the more they realized that everyone involved had secrets, and those secrets were about to come to light. As the investigation progressed, forensic evidence began to shift the focus firmly onto Khloe Miller. From the beginning, detectives suspected Khloe's jealousy and possessiveness might have played a role in Amanda's death, but now they had proof that tied her directly to the crime scene. Traces of Khloe's DNA were found on Amanda's jacket, and faint fingerprints matching hers were lifted from the blood-stained football jersey used to wrap Amanda's body. More damning was the discovery of Khloe's hair strands near Amanda's lifeless form, as well as under Amanda's fingernails, suggesting a struggle between the two. These findings added a critical layer to the case, confirming that Khloe had been in the basement on the night of the murder. Beyond the physical evidence, Khloe's escalating behavior painted a troubling picture. Investigators uncovered a pattern of threatening behavior toward Amanda, including the handwritten notes and accounts of public confrontations. Witnesses recalled Khloe's volatile outbursts, her sharp temper, and her deep insecurities about her relationship with Jack. While Khloe had initially denied any involvement, the mounting evidence made it impossible for her to maintain her innocence. Detectives also began to piece together Khloe's movements on the night of the murder. Witnesses placed her near the stadium after the team's return, and she was seen pacing in the parking lot shortly before Amanda entered the building. Her behavior in the days following the murder also raised suspicions. While the town mourned, Khloe seemed erratic, alternating between tears and anger, and her presence at Amanda's memorial was described as strained and uncomfortable. By now, it was clear that Khloe had both the motive and the opportunity to commit the crime. What remained was proving exactly what happened that night and whether anyone else might have been involved. The case against Khloe was strong, but the detectives weren't ready to close the file just yet. There were still unanswered questions about Jack, Ethan, and the circumstances leading up to the tragic event. Khloe might have been at the center of the storm, but this story was far from over. As the focus on Khloe Miller intensified, detectives couldn't ignore the inconsistencies in Jack Carter's story. From the start, Jack insisted he had nothing to do with Amanda's death. He claimed he went straight home after the away game and didn't see Amanda that night. But the evidence told a different story, and Jack's credibility began to crumble. Security footage from a nearby gas station placed Jack's truck at the school parking lot just after midnight, minutes before Amanda's estimated time of death. When confronted, Jack admitted to being at the stadium but offered a vague explanation. He claimed he had gone there to clear his head after a tough game and had no idea Amanda was in the building. His reluctance to explain further raised more suspicion. Adding to the doubts were accounts from Amanda's close friends, who revealed that Jack had been growing increasingly reckless in their secret relationship. He was seen sneaking away with Amanda during practices and team events, even as Khloe's jealousy grew more obvious. Jack's inability to manage the tension between his two relationships created a volatile situation that detectives believed could have played a role in Amanda's death. Further complicating matters, Jack's father, a former football star turned coach, was known for pushing him relentlessly to succeed. Investigators wondered if the constant pressure from his father, combined with his rocky relationships with both Amanda and Khloe, had pushed Jack to his breaking point. While there was no direct evidence linking him to the crime scene, his lies and behavior added another layer of complexity to the case. Jack's actions that night and his failure to come clean from the beginning made him a key figure in the investigation. His connection to both Amanda and Khloe put him at the center of the tangled web surrounding Amanda's death. For detectives, one question remained. Was Jack hiding more than just his relationship with Amanda, or was he another victim of the chaos created by jealousy and betrayal? By the time Khloe Miller was arrested and charged with Amanda Hart's murder, the town of Blue Creek was already divided. The trial, which began in January 2013, only deepened the rift. For some, Khloe was a victim of emotional turmoil, driven to the edge by betrayal and heartbreak. For others, she was a cold and calculated killer who let her jealousy destroy more than one life. The prosecution presented a strong case against Khloe. They highlighted the forensic evidence, her DNA, fingerprints, and hair found at the crime scene. They introduced the threatening notes Khloe had written to Amanda, the witness accounts of her public confrontations, and her increasingly erratic behavior leading up to the murder. The narrative painted Khloe as someone consumed by rage and possessiveness, willing to go to any length to protect her relationship with Jack Carter. Khloe's defense team, on the other hand, tried to portray her as a young woman caught in an emotional storm. They argued that her actions were not premeditated, but a result of intense emotional distress. They brought up her struggles with self-esteem, her volatile relationship with Jack, and the psychological toll of feeling betrayed by the two people closest to her. A court-appointed psychologist testified that Khloe exhibited signs of narcissistic personality disorder, which the defense argued clouded her judgment and fueled her actions. Jack Carter's testimony was one of the most emotional moments of the trial. The once confident quarterback admitted to his affair with Amanda and expressed deep regret for how his choices contributed to the tragedy. His voice broke as he described the secret relationship, the lies he told, and his overwhelming guilt. Ethan Ward, too, testified about his argument with Amanda the night of her death, though he vehemently denied having any involvement in the crime. The trial also exposed how Amanda's death had rippled through the community. Friends, teachers, and even parents testified about the toxic relationships, jealousy, and pressures that had been brewing beneath the surface. What became clear was that this wasn't just a story of one person's crime. It was a cautionary tale about what can happen when emotions are left unchecked. After weeks of testimony, the jury reached a verdict. Khloe Miller was found guilty of second-degree murder, a decision that brought some closure but left the town grappling with the fallout. Blue Creek would never be the same, and neither would the lives of those connected to Amanda's tragic end. On February 5, 2013, Khloe Miller stood in court as her sentence was announced. Life in prison. For a young woman who once held the title of head cheerleader and commanded the attention of an entire high school, it was a devastating end. Khloe stood emotionless as the judge read the sentence, her fiery spirit extinguished by the weight of her actions. The courtroom was silent, except for the quiet sobs of Amanda Hart's parents, who had waited months for justice. For them, no sentence could bring their daughter back, but knowing that Khloe would never be free again brought some measure of closure. Khloe's own family, seated in the back of the courtroom, sat in stunned disbelief, grappling with the reality that their daughter would spend the rest of her life behind bars. The sentencing marked the end of a long and painful chapter for the town of Blue Creek. But for Jack Carter, the weight of Amanda's death lingered. The once promising quarterback gave up on his dreams of college football and withdrew from the public eye. He carried the guilt of his affair with Amanda and the role it played in setting off the chain of events that led to her murder. Jack's bright future, once the pride of Blue Creek, faded into quiet anonymity. Ethan Ward, too, struggled to move on. Although cleared of any involvement in the murder, The guilt of his argument with Amanda that night weighed heavily on him. Unable to face the reminders of what had happened, Ethan left Blue Creek shortly after the trial. His departure marked yet another loss for a town already scarred by tragedy. For Blue Creek High School, the shadow of Amanda's death loomed large. The football stadium, once a source of pride for the community, became a haunting reminder of what had happened there. Students whispered about the basement, and the tragic story of Amanda Hart became part of the school's history. The school worked to move forward, but the pain of losing one of its brightest stars was something it would carry for years to come. While Khloe's sentencing brought a sense of justice, it also highlighted the deep scars left by Amanda's murder. Broken relationships, shattered dreams, and lingering guilt became the legacy of a tragedy that could never be undone. Blue Creek would eventually heal, but the memory of Amanda Hart and the lessons from her story would remain etched in the town's fabric forever. Months after Khloe Miller was sentenced to life in prison, a letter arrived at Jack Carter's door. It was unexpected, and the return address, a state penitentiary, filled him with unease. Khloe hadn't spoken to Jack since the trial, and yet here was a letter, written in her distinct, neat handwriting. The contents of that letter would leave Jack questioning everything he thought he knew. In the letter, Khloe began by expressing her bitterness about life in prison. She wrote about the isolation, the endless monotony, and the regret that consumed her. But the tone quickly shifted. Khloe claimed that while she had been the one to end Amanda's life, Amanda herself wasn't as innocent as everyone believed. According to Khloe, Amanda had secrets that could have destroyed more than just her relationship with Jack. Khloe accused Amanda of being manipulative, using her charm to keep control of those around her. She painted a picture of Amanda as someone who deliberately sought to provoke Khloe, knowing exactly how to push her buttons. But the most chilling part of the letter came when Khloe hinted at something far darker. She suggested that Amanda had been hiding something monumental, something tied to the events of that fateful night. Khloe urged Jack to uncover the truth for himself, cryptically stating that answers might still be hidden in the stadium basement. She ended the letter with an ominous warning. Amanda's death wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. For Jack, the letter was both unsettling and confusing. Was Khloe telling the truth, or was this just another manipulation from someone desperate to shift the blame? The letter reopened old wounds, forcing Jack to relive the tragedy and question everything he thought he knew about Amanda and the events that led to her death. Khloe's words, whether true or not, cast a shadow over the fragile closure that the trial had provided. They suggested that the story wasn't as straightforward as it seemed, and that the secrets of Blue Creek might not be buried after all. Khloe's cryptic letter left Jack Carter with more questions than answers. As he sat in his small apartment, reading her words over and over, the weight of her accusations began to sink in. Could Amanda have been hiding something all along? Was there more to her story than anyone knew? Jack couldn't ignore the possibility, even if it unsettled him deeply. The mention of hidden truths in the stadium basement gnawed at him. For months, Jack had tried to put the events of that night behind him, but now Khloe's words reopened a door he wasn't ready to face. What could Amanda have kept from him? Khloe's claims of Amanda's manipulation didn't match the person Jack had come to know during their secret relationship, but the suggestion of deeper secrets left him torn between disbelief and curiosity. Detective Kate Monroe, though officially done with the case, found herself revisiting old notes when news of Khloe's letter surfaced. She had always felt there were loose ends in the investigation's small details that didn't quite add up. Amanda's phone records, social media activity, and cryptic diary entries hinted at personal struggles and connections that were never fully explored. But with Khloe's conviction, those details had been set aside. As whispers about the letter spread through the town, Blue Creek found itself gripped by speculation. Some believed Khloe's claims were nothing more than an attempt to rewrite the narrative from behind bars. Others wondered if Amanda had indeed been more complex than anyone realized, carrying secrets that might explain the chaos that led to her death. For Jack, the unanswered questions became impossible to ignore. Amanda's memory was no longer just about the bright cheerleader everyone adored. It was now shadowed by doubts and mysteries he couldn't shake. Khloe's letter didn't just reopen old wounds. It left everyone wondering if the darkest truths of Blue Creek had yet to come to light. Months turned into years, but the shadow of Amanda Hart's death lingered heavily over Blue Creek. The small Texas town, once known for its Friday night football games and close-knit community, now carried the weight of a tragedy that no one could forget. Life continued, but the scars remained visible in the people and places that Amanda had touched. At Blue Creek High School, the football stadium became a painful reminder of what had happened. The basement, where Amanda's body was discovered, was sealed off. Students avoided it, and teachers skirted around discussions of that tragic night. The cheerleading squad, once a symbol of school pride, struggled to maintain its spirit. Every new cheer captain found themselves compared to Amanda, her memory becoming an impossible standard to live up to. For Amanda's family, moving forward felt like an insurmountable challenge. Her parents, long divorced, found themselves united in grief, but distant in how they handled it. Her mother became a quiet advocate for victims of violence, channeling her pain into raising awareness, while her father withdrew from the public eye, struggling to process the loss. The town's gossip never fully died down. Khloe's conviction and the revelations from her trial became a cautionary tale, often whispered about but rarely discussed openly. Jack Carter's disappearance from public life only fueled speculation. Some wondered if he had ever gone back to the stadium, seeking the answers Khloe's letter hinted at. Others simply mourned the loss of the promising quarterback who had once been the pride of Blue Creek. Detective Kate Monroe occasionally found herself thinking about the case, even as she worked on new investigations. The unresolved questions about Amanda's life and Khloe's cryptic claims lingered in her mind. While she believed justice had been served, the nagging feeling that not every truth had been uncovered remained. Blue Creek itself seemed divided between moving forward and clinging to the past. New students came and went, unaware of the weight the town carried, while longtime residents couldn't help but feel that their community had lost a part of its soul. The tragedy had left an indelible mark, reminding everyone of how quickly things could unravel when secrets, jealousy, and betrayal collided. Though times softened the pain, the story of Amanda Hart was one that Blue Creek would never truly leave behind.